Monogamy is dying, not because it doesn't work, but because sin has become so common, it's treated like the common cold. Affairs aren't shocking anymore. Porn isn't private anymore. Open marriages are the new progressive. And if you're faithful, people look at you like you're the fool. So let's be real. Monogamy isn't obsolete. It's under attack. Think about this. In 1980, only 6% of 40-year-olds had never been married. By 2021, that number jumped to 25%. That means 1 in 4 people hit 40 without ever stepping into covenant. The U.S. marriage rate today sits at just 6.1 marriages per 1,000 people, nearly half of what it was decades ago. People aren't rushing to say, I do anymore. They're rushing to say, I'll just do me. And online, it's worse. YouTube is full of red pill coaches telling men marriage is a trap, telling women they don't need men and men can't be trusted, and selling this idea that covenant is outdated. The culture is disciplining us in distrust, and the church is too silent. Scripture says the opposite. A man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. That's the blueprint. Not one flesh and a side piece. Not one flesh until you get bored. No, one flesh, period. And if you want proof that sexual freedom is just bondage in disguise, look at the numbers. The CDC reported 2.2 million STIs in 2024. Even with a slight dip from the year before, infections are still 13% higher than 10 years ago. And congenital syphilis, babies being born with an infection, has exploded nearly 700% in a decade. You know what that means? That means that adults are calling promiscuity freedom while babies are born carrying the fallout. This isn't liberation. This is change dressed up as choices. And let's keep it real. In the Black community, we carry a disproportionate share of these infections. About 32% of cases, while being only 12% of the population. And you know where some of that is coming from? It's coming from Black community not wanting to commit to one another, want to be in polyamorous relationships, or express their sexual liberation in porn doing orgies. The CDC says it's not our promiscuity, so to speak. The CDC says it's structural. It's a lack of health care, broken systems, poverty. That sounds like an excuse for us not to hold ourselves accountable for the lack of use of condoms and contraceptives. But whether the reason is symptomatic or not, the consequence is still the same. Our families, our children, and our homes are bleeding for our bad decisions. Porn has become the silent pastor of this generation. Barna says more than half of practicing Christians admit to watching it at least occasionally. That means people are sitting in pews, singing hymns on Sunday, and scrolling porn on Monday. And Jesus already called it out. Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Matthew 5:28. Porn normalizes adultery of the heart. It totally numbs it. It convinces men that one wife isn't enough. It convinces women that they'll never measure up. It breeds boredom, resentment, and broken intimacy. And when that boredom sets in, that's when the pressure starts. Let's have an open marriage. Let's try polyamory. Let's invite others in. That's not exploration. That's desperation disguised as evolution. Polyamory is nothing new. It's lust with a better marketing team. Online is trendy. Offline, it leaves people empty. It's pitched as honest, grown, and progressive. But the reality is coercive. A lot of so-called open marriages aren't mutual. They're one spouse wearing the other down until they agree out of fear of being abandoned. That's not consent. That's manipulation. And even gospel artists are entertaining it. Kirk Franklin and Tyrese had a podcast discussion where Kirk Franklin asked questions about polyamory, looking desperate and completely intrigued by the whole topic. It was disgusting. And Tyrese basically said, "Why are you so curious about it?" That shows you how far the drift is. And it also tells a tale that obviously Kirk is still fully engaged in his porn addiction. So it lets us know that leaders are starting to play with ideas that the Bible already closed the book to. And here's the truth. Polyamory doesn't multiply love. Anyone who says that is oblivious. It divides it. It doesn't deepen intimacy. It dilutes it. Scripture doesn't stutter here. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Matthew 19:6. Now, let's talk about men. Too many men are calling weakness wisdom. They hide behind YouTube coaches, saying marriage is a trap, family is a liability, and loyalty is for suckers. But the truth is, a man who can't master his own flesh will never master his household. Ephesians 5:25 says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for it." Ephesians 5:25 says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." That's not optional. That's the standard. Leadership without holiness is cowardice. But right now, we've got men who are more committed to their lust than to their legacy. They'd rather scroll porn, chase strangers, try to find girlfriends on Craigslist, and pressure their wives into humiliation than stand up and lead with sacrifice. That's not masculinity. That's immaturity with a microphone. And let me keep it 100 with you. This isn't just statistics for me. I've lived this and see it. I know what it's like to deal with someone who is inconsistent, unfaithful, always chasing sin like it's oxygen, and you start to feel like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't faithfulness enough? But here's the truth. It's not about the faithful spouse. It's about a world that's addicted to sin. It's about appetites that are never satisfied. Proverbs 27:28 says, "Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied." When someone is bent on unfaithfulness, it's not because you're lacking. It's because they're enslaved. And the culture around them is cheering them on in that slavery. So is monogamy obsolete? No. What's obsolete is the fear of God in this generation. What's obsolete is the shame that's used to make people at least hide their sin instead of flaunting it. What's obsolete is the backbone in the church to call sin what it is instead of excusing it like a teacher's note. Monogamy isn't obsolete. It's rare. And rare doesn't mean worthless. It means valuable. It means set apart, consecrated. Monogamy isn't obsolete. It's rare. And rare doesn't mean worthless. It means valuable. It means consecrated, set apart for God's purpose. And the Bible told us it would be this way. Narrow is the road that leads to life, and few find it, according to Matthew 7:14. The culture wants you to think covenant is outdated, but the word says it's eternal. Marriage is still honorable. Faithfulness is still beautiful. And in a time where sin is common as air, faithfulness is rebellion. So let me ask you again, is monogamy obsolete? Or is it just that the world has gotten so comfortable with sin that holiness feels foreign? Because as for me, I'd rather walk the narrow road with peace than drown in the wide one with company.